When I showed up in front of the guests at my 70th birthday party with a black eye, everyone went into shock. The silence was absolute. Conversations died and drinks froze in midair. I could feel every pair of eyes fixed on my face, on the purple swelling around my left eye, on the bruise that no makeup could hide. Then my son Michael stepped forward and declared with a clear and proud voice. It was my wife who taught him his place so he would learn respect. Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, straightened her shoulders beside him, satisfied with that little poisonous smile shining on her lips. She looked at me as if I were trash, as if I were nothing. That was when my brother Robert approached Michael, and what he said changed everything. That day I lost my son, but I also found myself again. Let me tell you how I got to that moment of public humiliation, how I went from being a beloved father to becoming an enemy in my own home. Because this did not start with physical aggression. It started much earlier with soft words and fake smiles, with poison disguised as concern. 3 years ago, when my wife Helen passed away, the world lost its color. Helen, my partner of 42 years, left in silence on a cold winter morning. A sudden heart attack. I did not even have time to say goodbye. One morning she was by my side, warm under the sheets, and the next she was cold, gone forever. The pain was so intense I thought I would drown in it. I cried in the shower so Michael would not hear me. I cried while I cooked. I cried looking at the empty side of the bed. But I had to be strong. Michael needed me. He had lost his mother too. The house where we lived was our fortress, a beautiful property that Helen and I had bought when Michael was just a boy. 2 stories, a large garden, big windows that let in the morning sun. Helen had left it in my name. It is yours, Frank. She had told me months before dying, as if she had sensed something. Do not let anyone take what we built together. We signed the papers and everything was in order. I was the legal owner of that house, of those memories in every corner where I had raised my son. Michael lived with me. After his mother's death, he decided to stay. I am not going to leave you alone, Dad, he would tell me while we ate breakfast, drinking fresh coffee. He worked at a construction firm downtown. He left early, came back tired, but always with a smile for me. We ate dinner together, watched movies on Sundays, talked about Helen, about memories, about how much we missed her. The pain was more bearable when it was shared. I cooked his favorite dishes, pot roast, meatloaf, handmade biscuits like he liked. He fixed things that broke around the house. We were a team, we were family. I thought it would be like that forever. Then came Vanessa. He met her at a business fair. She was an event coordinator, elegant, sure of herself, with that type of polished beauty that seems to have come out of a fashion magazine. Dark hair always perfectly styled, impeccable nails, designer clothes. The first time he brought her home, she gave me a smile of blindingly white teeth and a hug that seemed calculated, measured to the millimeter. "Mr. Frank," she told me with a sweet voice, "Michael talks so much about you. It is a pleasure to meet the man who raised such a wonderful son." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think she was sincere. I prepared a special dinner that night. Roast chicken with the spices Michael loved. Fresh salad, warm rolls right out of the oven. Vanessa ate little, pushing the food around the plate while making comments about carbs and calories. "I almost never eat bread," she said, looking at the rolls with something resembling contempt. "We need to take care of ourselves, do you not think?" She smiled. But there was something sharp in that smile, something that made me feel uncomfortable. During the following months, Vanessa became part of our lives. She came to dinner 2 or 3 times a week, always polite, always smiling. But I started to notice little things, the way she looked at the house, as if she were evaluating it. Comments that seemed innocent, but carried hidden barbs. "This living room is very classic," she would say, touching the furniture Helen and I had chosen together. "I bet they are 30 years old, right? There are such modern styles now." Or when she saw the family photos on the wall. "How nice that you keep so many memories of the past, Frank. Although sometimes clinging so much to yesterday leaves no room for tomorrow." Michael noticed nothing. He was in love, blind. When I tried to mention something, he defended me, but with a condescending smile. "Dad, Vanessa only wants to help. She is used to organizing spaces. It is her job." And I stayed silent. I did not want to be that father-in-law, that bitter old man who does not accept his son's partner. So I swallowed my doubts and smiled. They got married 6 months later, a small but elegant ceremony in the botanical garden. Vanessa organized everything. I barely participated. "Do not worry, Mr. Frank," she would tell me. "I will take care of everything. You just relax and enjoy." The day of their wedding, while I watched them exchange vows, I felt a knot in my stomach. Helen was missing. She would have known what to say. She would have seen what I was beginning to see. After the honeymoon, Vanessa moved in. "It is temporary, Dad," Michael explained to me, "only until we find our own place." I accepted it. He was my son. I would not deny him a roof over his head. But temporary became a month, then 2, then 6, and with each day that passed, Vanessa occupied more space. She reorganized the kitchen, changed the dining room curtains, moved the living room furniture. "We need to feel at home, Frank," she told me with that soft smile, and I let her do it because I did not want problems. But then the gatherings started. Vanessa invited friends, colleagues, people I did not know. She filled the living room. They laughed loudly, drank until late, and when I appeared, the atmosphere changed. Conversations stopped. They looked at me as if I were an intruder in my own home. "Dad, do you not want to rest?" Michael would say softly. "We will take care of everything down here." And I went up to my room feeling displaced, invisible, a burden. Have you ever felt strange in your own home? Have you ever watched someone take your space little by little and not be able to do anything to stop it? I was living a silent nightmare, and I did not even know it. Months passed, and the house stopped being mine. Not legally, not on paper, but in every detail that mattered. Vanessa redecorated without asking for permission. One day I came home and the cream-colored curtains Helen and I had chosen were gone. In their place hung minimalist gray fabrics that made the room seem cold, impersonal. "The other ones were very outdated, Frank," Vanessa explained while folding the old curtains into a box. "These are more elegant, more current. You will get used to it." But I did not want to get used to it. I wanted my curtains. I wanted my house. I wanted someone to ask me before changing the things Helen and I had built together. Michael worked more and more hours, left before dawn, and returned after 9 at night. We ate dinner separately, me in the kitchen, them in the dining room with the door closed. I could hear their laughter, their private conversations, but I was no longer part of it. I was no longer part of my son's life. When I tried to talk to him, he was always tired, distracted, looking at his phone. "We will talk later, Dad," he told me, without lifting his eyes. "Right now, I have to check some emails." And I stayed with the words stuck in my throat. Vanessa started making more direct comments. She no longer bothered to disguise her barbs with sweetness. One afternoon while I was cooking, she came into the kitchen and wrinkled her nose. "Frank, you always cook with so much grease. The smell gets all over the house," she said, leaving a scented candle on the table. "Use this afterward, please. Tomorrow my friends are coming, and I do not want it to smell like old people food." Old people food. That is what she called the stew I was preparing. The same recipe Michael had loved all his life. I started cooking less, locking myself more in my room. The house was hostile. Every space had Vanessa's mark, her magazines on the coffee table, her shoes in the entryway, her expensive perfume floating in the air. I was becoming invisible, a ghost in my own home, and the worst part was that Michael did not see or did not want to see. One night I went down for water. It was past 11. I thought everyone was sleeping, but I heard voices in the study. The door was ajar. I approached without making noise. Vanessa was talking to Michael, her voice low but intense. "We cannot go on like this, baby. This house is too big for 3 people, and your dad is already old. Would it not be better if he went to live in a smaller place, easier for him to manage? There are very nice retirement homes, with people his age. He would be accompanied, happy." My heart stopped. Michael remained silent for a moment, which seemed eternal. Then he sighed. "I do not know, Vanessa. He is my dad. I cannot just kick him out." Vanessa let out a soft laugh. "It is not about kicking him out, my love. It is about us all having our space. Think about it. We could have this house just for us. Start our family. Do you not want that?" I walked away before hearing Michael's answer. I went up the stairs with my legs trembling, locked myself in my room, and cried in silence with my face buried in the pillow so they would not hear me. They wanted to get rid of me. They wanted my house, the house Helen had left me, the house where I had raised my son. and Michael was considering it. My own son was thinking about getting rid of me as if I were an old piece of furniture that no longer matched the new decoration. The following days were tense. I could not look at Vanessa without feeling nauseous. She knew it. I could see it in her eyes, in the way she smiled at me with that quiet superiority. She knew I had heard, and she did not care. In fact, she seemed to enjoy it. She started being more territorial. "Frank, could you knock before entering the living room? Sometimes we have private conversations." "Oh, Frank, better not use the washing machine after 7. The noise bothers us when we are watching TV." The house had rules now, rules I had not made, rules that turned me into an unwanted guest. I tried to talk to Michael. One morning I caught him before he left for work. "Son, I need to talk to you." He was checking his briefcase. In a hurry, as always. "What is it, Dad?" I took a deep breath. I feel like Vanessa and I do not get along. I feel like I am no longer welcome here. Michael frowned. "Dad, do not say that. This is your house." But he said it automatically, without conviction, like someone repeating a memorized phrase. Then why do I feel like I have to ask permission for everything? Why do I feel like I am in the way? Michael ran his hand through his hair, uncomfortable. "It is just that Vanessa is used to having her space. It is nothing personal. Just try to be more flexible, okay? For me, please." And he left. He left me standing there without the words of defense that never came. That night, Vanessa organized another dinner. 6 people arrived. They occupied the dining room, loud and happy. I was in the kitchen making myself some tea. When one of Vanessa's friends came in, she looked at me with surprise. "Oh, hi. I did not know there was someone else here." Before I could answer, Vanessa appeared behind her. "Ah, that is Frank, Michael's dad. He lives here." The way she said it, "He lives here," as if I were a tenant, as if it were not my house. The friend nodded politely and they left. I heard the laughter in the dining room. I stayed in my own kitchen, feeling small, humiliated, invisible. Weeks passed. Vanessa started talking about renovations. "This kitchen is so outdated," she told Michael while I was right there, as if I could not hear her. "We should modernize it, change the cabinets, put an island in the center. Do you know how much a property increases in value with a remodeled kitchen? We could invest about $30,000 and get back double if we ever sell." "Sell," she said. "Sell as if the house were hers, as if I did not exist." Then came my birthday. 70 years old. Michael suggested having a party. "You deserve to celebrate, Dad," he told me with a smile that reminded me of the boy he had been. For a moment I felt hope. Maybe things could improve. Maybe I still mattered. Vanessa took charge of everything. She invited relatives, friends, neighbors. She decorated the living room with silver balloons and garlands. She prepared a table with fancy snacks. From the outside everything looked perfect, but I felt a strange tension in the air. Something was not right. The morning of my birthday I went down for coffee. Vanessa was in the kitchen talking on the phone. When she saw me, she abruptly cut the call. "Good morning, Frank." Her tone was cold. I poured myself coffee in silence. She stayed there standing, looking at me with an expression I could not decipher. "Do you know what day it is today?" I tried to break the ice. "Yes, your birthday." Silence. "And also the day you should make important decisions about your future." My hand stopped with the cup halfway up. "What do you mean?" Vanessa crossed her arms. "Michael and I have been talking. We need this house, Frank. We want to start a family. We need space, privacy. And you need a place more appropriate for your age." I felt the ground move under my feet. "This is my house, Vanessa." She smiled, that little poisoned smile. For now, I did not know what to answer. I went to my room with my heart racing. I sat on the edge of the bed, shaking. What was happening? How had I gotten here? I looked at the photos on my nightstand. Helen and I on our wedding day, baby Michael, our happy family. And now everything was crumbling. That afternoon I got ready for my own party, feeling a huge weight on my chest. I put on the beige suit I bought especially for the occasion. I applied makeup carefully, trying to hide the dark circles, the marks of insomnia and anguish. But when I saw myself in the mirror, I saw a tired man, a man who was losing the battle in his own home. I took a deep breath. I had to go down. The guests would arrive soon. I could not hide in my room on my birthday. I went down the stairs slowly. The living room was transformed. Vanessa had done an impeccable job. Everything looked elegant, sophisticated, perfect. But it did not seem like my party. It seemed like someone else's event. The first guests started to arrive. My brother Robert was one of the first. He hugged me tight and whispered in my ear, "Is everything okay? You look pale." I forced a smile. "I am fine, just a little tired." He looked at me with concern but did not insist. More people arrived. Cousins, old friends, neighbors. Everyone congratulated me, hugged me, wished me the best. For a moment, surrounded by people who loved me, I almost forgot the tension I was living. Vanessa moved among the guests like the perfect hostess, smiling, charming, attentive. Michael was by her side, proud of his wife. I watched them from a distance, feeling as if I were watching someone else's life. My own party, and I was a spectator. Vanessa approached at one moment with 2 glasses of wine in her hands, offering me one. "Happy birthday, Frank," she said with that smile that no longer fooled me. I took the glass out of politeness. "Thank you for organizing all this." She tilted her head. "It is the least I could do. After all, soon this house will be completely ours, and we want to start on the right foot," she said in a low voice just for me, while others chatted around us. It was a threat disguised as courtesy. I needed air. I excused myself and went up to the 2nd floor. I went into the bathroom and locked the door. I leaned on the sink, breathing with difficulty. I had to calm down. I could not ruin my own party with a panic attack. I splashed cold water on my wrists. I took deep breaths. 1, 2, 3 times. When I felt more stable, I left the bathroom. And then I saw her. Vanessa was in the hallway in front of my bedroom door. She had my jewelry box in her hands. My jewelry box? The small wooden chest where I kept the few pieces Helen had given me over the years. "What are you doing?" I asked with a trembling voice. Vanessa turned around without a trace of guilt on her face. "I was just looking. These jewels are very old, right? Surely they are worth something." I walked towards her and snatched the jewelry box from her hands. "You have no right to touch my things." She laughed, a soft and contemptuous laugh. "Calm down, Frank. I was not going to steal them. Although, with what they are worth, they could help pay for part of the kitchen remodeling." I felt the rage rising up my throat like lava. "Get out of my room!" Vanessa took a step towards me. "We were inches apart. This is not your room. This is our house. And the sooner you understand it, the better for everyone." Something broke inside me. All the accumulated humiliation, all the forced silence, all the invisibility I had endured for months, suddenly exploded. This house is mine. It is in my name. Helen left it to me. And you have no right to anything. The words came out with more force than I expected. Vanessa narrowed her eyes. Her face changed. The mask of politeness fell off. And I saw something ugly, something cruel underneath. "You are a ridiculous old man clinging to the past. Michael does not need you anymore. I am his family now. And we are going to get this house with or without your permission." I should have stayed quiet. I should have gone down the stairs and forgotten it. But I could not. "Get out." I pointed to the door. Vanessa looked at me with pure hatred. Then, without warning, she pushed me. It was not a strong push, but I did not expect it. I lost my balance. My hip hit the edge of the dresser. I tried to hold on to something, but my hand slipped. I fell sideways. My head hit the corner of the nightstand. The pain was instant, sharp, blinding. I brought my hand to my eye and felt moisture. Vanessa stood there, watching me on the floor. For a second I saw something resembling fear in her eyes, but she composed herself quickly. "He tripped by himself," she said with a firm voice. "He is old and clumsy. Hefau." She looked at me for a few more seconds and then left the room, closing the door behind her. I stayed there on the floor, touching my eye that was starting to swell. The physical pain was nothing compared to the humiliation, the helplessness, the horror of what had just happened. I do not know how long I stayed there. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10. Finally I got up. I saw myself in the mirror. The skin around my eye was already turning purple. There was a small cut on my eyebrow. The blood had left a thin line on my cheek. I cleaned myself with a towel. I tried to cover it with makeup, but it was useless. The bruise was very obvious. Downstairs I could hear music, laughter, conversations. My party continued as if nothing had happened, and I was up here bleeding, hurt, broken. I thought about not going down, staying locked in, waiting for everyone to leave. But then I heard Michael's voice calling me. "Dad, come! We are going to cut the cake!" I could not hide. It was my birthday. I had to face what had happened, so I went down slowly. Every step was an effort. When I reached the bottom, the conversation stopped. One by one, the guests turned to look at me. I saw their faces change. Surprise, horror, confusion. The silence fell like a slab. Michael was the first to speak, but not with concern, not with alarm. He took a step forward and said with a clear voice, almost proud, it was my wife who taught him his place so he would learn respect. The words fell like bombs in the middle of the silence. Vanessa straightened her shoulders beside him, satisfied, looking at me with those cold, victorious eyes. The guests were immobile. Nobody knew what to say. Nobody knew what to do. And me, standing there in front of everyone, humiliated in the most horrible way I could imagine. My own son justifying violence against me. My own son choosing her over me. Then Robert made his way through the crowd. His face was red with fury. He walked straight towards Michael and looked at him with an intensity I had never seen. What kind of man allows his wife to attack his own father and then celebrates it in front of everyone? He said in a low voice, but loaded with contempt. Michael went pale. "Uncle, it is not what it looks like." Robert interrupted him. "Would your mother be ashamed of you?" The silence that followed was devastating. Michael opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Vanessa tried to grab his arm, but Robert glared at her. "And you? You entered this family with lies. We are all seeing it." Some guests started to murmur. Others looked at the ground uncomfortably. A cousin approached me. "Frank, are you okay? Do we need to call someone?" I shook my head. Tears were starting to cloud my vision, but I was not going to cry. "Not there. Not in front of them." Robert took me by the arm gently. "Let's go upstairs. I am going to clean that wound." But before I could move, Vanessa spoke. Her voice sounded shrill, desperate. "He provoked me. He insulted me. I was only defending myself." Robert turned towards her. "Liar." The word hung in the air. Michael finally reacted. He stood between Robert and Vanessa, protecting her as if she were the victim. "Uncle, that is enough. You do not know what happened." Robert let out a bitter laugh. "I do not know? I see your father with a black eye, and you defending the one who attacked him. I know exactly what happened here." More guests started to leave. Some said goodbye with pity. Others simply left without saying anything. The party was falling apart. My birthday had turned into a public nightmare. An older lady, a friend of my late wife, approached before leaving. She took my hand and whispered, "Helen would never have allowed this. Take care, Frank." And she left, leaving me with those words engraved in my heart. Robert took me to the kitchen, closed the door, sat me in a chair, and began to examine my eye carefully. "This needs ice," he said while opening the freezer. He wrapped ice cubes in a clean cloth and pressed it gently against my face. The cold made me shiver, but the pain started to calm down a little. "How did it happen?" Robert asked with a controlled voice. Although I could see the contained fury in his eyes, I told him everything. The jewelry box, the argument, the push, the fall. While I spoke, I saw his jaw tensing more and more. "This cannot go on like this," he said when I finished. "This house is yours, legally yours. She has no right to anything." I wiped the tears that had started to fall without permission, but Michael, he is on her side. He did not even ask if I was okay. He just defended her. Robert closed his fists. "Michael is blind, but he is going to wake up. And when he wakes up, he is going to regret it." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think that my son would return to being the man I had raised. But something inside me had broken that night. Something that maybe would never be repaired. The kitchen door burst open. Michael entered with Vanessa right on his heels. "Dad, we need to talk," he said with a serious tone. Robert stood up, intervening. "Do not get near him." Michael looked at him with frustration. "He is my dad. I have the right to talk to him." Robert did not move. "You lost that right when you let your wife attack him and humiliated him in front of everyone." Vanessa intervened, her voice shrill and defensive. "It was an accident. He tripped. I did not touch him. I looked at her. She was lying shamelessly, without a trace of remorse on her face. "You pushed me?" I said with a trembling but firm voice. "You pushed me and left me lying on the floor as if I were trash." Vanessa shook her head, fake tears starting to form in her eyes. "Michael, he is lying. He is trying to separate us. He is jealous of what we have." It was incredible. She was flipping the script, turning herself into the victim. And Michael? Michael looked at her with concern, as if he really believed she was the one who needed protection. "Frank has always been difficult," Vanessa continued with a broken voice. "From the day he met me, he treated me badly, made me feel like I did not belong here. I only want peace. I want us to be a family." Every word was a stab. She was building a narrative where I was the villain and she the innocent victim. And Michael was buying the whole story. "Dad," he said, turning towards me, "maybe you should. Maybe you need to rest. You are stressed, confused." Confused? He was calling me confused as if I were crazy, as if I had invented everything. Robert exploded. "Are you hearing yourself, Michael? Your dad has a black eye. A black eye! And you are trying to convince him that he is confused." Michael ran his hands through his hair, overwhelmed. "I do not know what to believe. I was not there. I did not see what happened." Vanessa hung on his arm, sobbing against his shoulder. "He hates me, Michael. He never accepted me. Now he is making things up, so you kick me out of the house. It was a masterful performance. And it was working." I got up from the chair. The ice fell to the floor. I looked my son directly in the eyes. "Michael, I am your father. I raised you alone after your mother died. I gave you everything I had. I loved you unconditionally, and now you are calling me a liar to protect a woman who attacked me." My voice broke on the last word. Michael looked away, could not hold my gaze. And in that moment I knew I had lost him. Maybe not forever, but in that instant Vanessa had won. "I want you to leave," I said with all the dignity I could muster. "This is my house. I want you to pack your bags and leave." Vanessa instantly stopped crying, her face hardened. "This house is too big for you alone. You need help. You need supervision." The word supervision sounded like poison. Robert took a step forward. "The only one who needs to leave is you. Frank is the legal owner of this property. You can leave voluntarily, or we can call the police and remove you by force." Michael finally spoke, and his words destroyed me. "We are not leaving. This house should be mine. Mom built it for our family, for me. It is not fair that Dad has everything when I need to start my own family." There was the truth. He did not care about my well-being. He did not care that I had been attacked. He cared about the house, the property, the money. Vanessa had put this idea in his head, and now he repeated it as if it were his. "Your mother left me this house because she trusted I would take care of it," I said with a trembling voice, "because she knew it was my refuge, my security, and you want to take it from me." Michael did not answer. Vanessa did. "You need to be realistic, Frank. You are old. How many more years are you going to live here? 10, maybe 15 if you are lucky. We are young. We need this space now. We can take care of you somewhere else, a more appropriate place." Every word was calculated, cold, ruthless. Robert took out his phone. "I am going to call the police right now." Michael went pale. "Uncle, do not do that. I am your nephew." Robert looked at him with deep disappointment. "And she is my sister, and you are destroying her for a woman who only wants your money." Vanessa laughed. "His money? Michael has no money. Everything is in his name." She pointed at me with contempt. "That is why we are here. That is why we need him to understand that he is no longer alone in this." The kitchen door opened again. It was Mr. Davis, the family lawyer. He had been a close friend of Helen, and had drafted her will. Apparently someone had called him during the chaos of the party. He entered with a folder in his hand, watching the scene seriously. "Good evening. I heard there were problems here." His presence immediately changed the atmosphere. Vanessa tensed up. Michael seemed confused. Robert sighed with relief. "Davis, good thing you are here," Robert said. "We need to clarify some things about the ownership of this house." The lawyer nodded, opened the folder, and took out an envelope. I casually brought the documents. I thought we might need them. He looked at Michael and Vanessa. "I think there is some confusion about the legal situation of this property. Vanessa straightened her back, trying to regain composure. There is no confusion. We all know the house is in Frank's name, but Michael is his son, the only heir. Eventually it will be his. Mr. Davis looked at her with a neutral expression, but his eyes were sharp. That is not exactly correct. He opened the envelope and took out several documents. Helen's will has certain specific clauses. My heart started beating faster. Clauses? Helen had never mentioned anything like that to me, the lawyer continued. The house was left to Frank with absolute ownership, but there is a protection clause. Michael frowned. What does that mean? Davis looked at me briefly as if asking for permission. I nodded. I needed to know. Everyone needed to know. It means that if Frank is pressured, coerced, or forced to abandon the property by any family member, the house does not pass into the hands of direct heirs. Instead, it will be donated completely to a charity specified in the will, the Living Hope Foundation. The silence that followed was absolute. Vanessa went pale. Michael opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The lawyer's words hung in the air like a sentence. Vanessa was the first to react. That is ridiculous. It cannot be legal. Davis looked at her with professional calm. It is perfectly legal. Mrs. Helen made her intentions very clear. She wanted to protect her husband from any kind of family pressure after her death. He took another document out of the folder. Here is the exact clause. If Frank is forced to sell, donate, or abandon the property, it passes to the Living Hope Foundation. Michael would inherit absolutely nothing. Michael collapsed into a chair. His face had lost all color. Mom did this. It was not a question. It was a statement full of shock. Davis nodded. Your mother was a wise woman. She had seen many cases of families destroyed by inheritances. She wanted to ensure Frank had a safe place until the end of his days, without pressure, without manipulation. He looked directly at Vanessa when saying the last word. Robert turned towards Vanessa with contempt. So, all this time, he said, looking at Vanessa with disdain, all this plan to get my brother out of his house, all the humiliations, the contempt, the push today, it was all in vain because you were never going to get this house. Vanessa stepped back as if she had been slapped. I did not have any plan, but her voice sounded empty. We all knew the truth. Now everything was clear. The renovations she wanted to do, the comments about the property value, the conversations I had overheard about nursing homes, everything had been a calculated strategy to get me out of my own house. Michael stood up slowly. He looked at me. He really looked at me for the first time in months. I saw confusion in his eyes. I saw shame beginning to appear. Dad. I did not know anything about this clause. I looked at him, feeling a deep pain in my chest. But you knew I felt bad. You knew I felt displaced in my own home. And you did nothing. You chose to believe her instead of me. Michael opened his mouth to answer, but the words did not come out. What could he say? It was all true. It was all true. Vanessa changed tactics. Her eyes filled with tears again. Michael, baby, you have to believe me. I did not know anything about this. I just wanted us to have our own space. I wanted us to be happy. She hung on his arm desperately. Do not leave me, please. We are in this together. But Michael broke free from her embrace. Something had changed in his expression. The fog was starting to lift. How long have you been planning this? He asked with a dangerously low voice. Vanessa shook her head. I did not plan anything. You are misunderstanding everything. Davis intervened again. There is one more thing you need to know. He took out another document. 3 weeks ago, someone requested a professional appraisal of this property. The appraiser contacted the office because he noticed the name on the request did not match the registered owner. He looked at Vanessa. The request was made by Vanessa Morales. She paid $300 for a complete evaluation of the house, including future projections if certain renovations were made. The silence was deafening. Michael looked at his wife as if she were a stranger. Also, Davis continued, we received a consultation 2 weeks ago asking about the legal processes to declare an elderly person mentally incompetent to manage their own assets. My heart stopped. Incompetent. They had tried to declare me incompetent. The consultation came from the same phone number registered to Vanessa Morales. Davis closed the folder. We did not proceed with any information, of course, but it was recorded. Vanessa backed up until she was against the wall. That is a lie. You are inventing all this to turn him against me. Michael turned towards her with fury in his eyes. You tried to declare my dad incompetent. You tried to take his house using the law. Vanessa was sobbing now, but they were tears of panic, not sadness. I was just investigating options. I was not going to do anything. I just wanted to know what was possible. Michael ran his hands over his face. My God, what have I done? What have you turned me into? He looked at her with horror, as if he could finally see what we had all seen from the beginning. Robert put a hand on my shoulder. Frank, do you want them to leave tonight? I looked at Michael, my son, the boy I had raised, the man he had become and whom I no longer recognized. Part of me wanted to scream at him, wanted to kick him out of the house immediately. But another part, the part that had been a father for so long, still felt love for him. A wounded love, broken, but love nonetheless. Michael can stay tonight, I said with a tired voice. But she leaves now. Vanessa opened her eyes with shock. You cannot do that. I am his wife. I looked directly at her. This is my house, and I want her out of it. Michael did not defend her this time. He stayed quiet, looking at the floor. Reality had finally hit him. Mr. Davis spoke with a professional tone. Mrs. Vanessa, I suggest you pack your personal belongings and leave. If you refuse, I can call the authorities. Vanessa looked at all of us with pure hatred. There were no more tears, only rage. This is not going to stay like this, she said with a poisonous voice. I have rights. I am Michael's wife. This house will eventually be mine too. Robert took a step towards her. Did you not hear anything the lawyer said? This house will never be yours. Never. And if you keep pressing, if you keep trying to force Frank to leave, the house will go to charity, and neither you nor Michael will see a dime. Vanessa gritted her teeth. She looked at Michael one last time. Are you going to let them kick me out like this? Are you going to choose him over me? Michael raised his eyes. They were red. I think you chose a long time ago. You chose this house instead of me, instead of us. His voice sounded broken. Vanessa let out a bitter laugh. You are an idiot. A weak idiot who is never going to get out from under Daddy's skirts. She grabbed the purse she had left in the kitchen and left, slamming the door. The sound resonated through the whole house. We stayed in silence for a long moment. Michael remained standing motionless, as if he could not process what had just happened. Finally he spoke, his voice barely audible. Dad, I am sorry. I am so sorry. Tears began to fall down his cheeks. I do not know how I let things get this far. I do not know at what point I stopped seeing you. I wanted to hug him. I wanted to say that everything was okay, but I could not, because it was not okay. Nothing was okay. She pushed me, Michael. Your wife pushed me and left me bleeding on the floor, and you defended her in front of everyone on my birthday. My voice broke. Do you have any idea how I felt? Michael covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. I know, and I have no excuse. She told me things. She made me feel like the problem was you, that it was you who did not accept her. And I believed her, my God. I believed everything. Davis put the documents back in the folder. Frank, if you need a restraining order against Vanessa, I can help you with that. I shook my head. I just wanted it all to end. I just wanted peace. For now I just want her to leave and not come back. The lawyer nodded. Understood. But if she communicates with you, if she threatens you in any way, call me immediately. He gave me his card, although I already had his number. I remain available for anything. He said goodbye and left, leaving the three of us in the kitchen. Robert broke the silence. Michael, you need to decide what you are going to do. But whatever it is, your dad cannot keep living with this tension. Michael nodded without raising his eyes. I know. I need to think. I need to process all this. He looked at his left hand, where his wedding ring shone. He took it off slowly and left it on the table. The sound of metal against wood sounded final, definitive. That night I could not sleep. I stayed awake in my room, with the door locked for the first time in years. My eye throbbed. The swelling had gotten worse, and the bruise extended to my cheek. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the scene repeat itself. The push, the fall, Vanessa's face looking at me on the floor without remorse. And, worse still, I saw Michael defending her in front of everyone. Those words echoed in my head, again and again. It was my wife who taught him his place. My own son, my boy. How had he reached this point? I heard movement in the house during the night, footsteps coming and going, doors opening and closing, muffled voices. I did not know if Michael was still there, or if he had left with Vanessa. Part of me wanted to know. Another part was afraid of the answer. Robert had stayed in the guest room. He had told me he would not leave me alone that night, that he would stay until he was sure I was okay. His presence gave me some comfort, but it could not erase the pain I felt in my chest. A pain that had nothing to do with physical aggression. When dawn finally broke, I went down the stairs carefully. The house was silent. The remains of the party were everywhere. Deflated balloons on the floor, abandoned glasses on the tables, plates with half-eaten food. Everything looked sad under the gray light of dawn. I approached the living room window. Michael's car was still in the driveway. He was still there. I did not know if this relieved me or distressed me more. Robert appeared in the kitchen door carrying 2 cups of coffee. He offered me one. "You did not sleep at all," he said. It was not a question. The dark circles must have been evident. I could not. I took the cup gratefully. The coffee was hot and strong, exactly what I needed. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Robert spoke. "Davis called me an hour ago. Vanessa tried to contact him last night. She wants to negotiate?" I looked at him, surprised. "Negotiate what?" Robert made a face. "She wants money. She says if we pay her a certain amount, she will sign the divorce without problems and leave without making a scandal. Otherwise, she threatens to take this to the media. She says she is going to tell everyone the family is kicking her out on the street." I felt nausea. Of course she wanted money. It had always been about money. "How much is she asking?" I asked. Robert hesitated. $30,000. The amount hit me like a punch. $30,000 was a huge sum, money I did not have available in cash. I would have to sell investments. Maybe take out a loan with the house as collateral. "I am not going to pay her anything," I said firmly. She attacked me. She tried to manipulate my son to steal my house. She does not deserve a dime. Robert nodded with approval. "That is exactly what I told Davis. He agrees. He says her threats are empty. She has no legal case." We heard footsteps on the stairs. Michael appeared. He looked terrible. Swollen eyes, wrinkled clothes, messy hair. He had probably slept as little as I did. He looked at both of us cautiously. "Good morning," he said with a hoarse voice. Robert did not answer. I just nodded. Michael poured himself coffee with trembling hands. The silence was heavy, uncomfortable. Finally he spoke. "Vanessa went to a hotel last night. She has been sending me messages all night." He paused. "She wants us to talk, to fix things." Robert snorted. "Fix things after everything she did?" Michael collapsed into a chair. "I know it seems ridiculous, but she is my wife. We were together 2 years. I cannot just end everything like this." I looked at him incredulously. "Michael, she tried to declare me incompetent. She investigated how to take my house. She attacked me and left me bleeding." "And you want to fix things with her?" My voice rose. "What else does she have to do for you to open your eyes?" Michael rubbed his face with his hands. "You are right, I know. But it is complicated. I loved her. Or, I thought I loved her. I do not know anything anymore." His voice broke. "Everything is so confusing. I thought I knew her. I thought we were happy. And now I discovered that everything was a lie. That she only wanted the house. That I was only a means to get what she wanted." Tears started rolling down his cheeks again. "I feel so stupid. So used." Part of me wanted to comfort him. He was my son, after all. But the wound was too fresh, the pain too deep. "Michael, she did not only use you. She destroyed me. She turned my house into a place where I felt strange. She made me feel like I was in the way. She humiliated me in front of everyone. And you allowed it. You participated." Michael nodded miserably. "I know. And I am never going to be able to forgive myself. Are you going to be able to forgive me someday?" He raised his eyes towards me. They were red and swollen. I did not know what to answer. Could I forgive him? A father's love does not disappear just like that. But the trust was broken, the respect damaged. "I do not know, Michael. I need time. I need space. I need to heal." My voice sounded tired. "And you need to decide what kind of man you want to be. Because the man who defended his wife after she attacked his father is not the son I raised. Robert stood up. I am going to be direct, Michael. You need to leave this house for a while. Your dad needs peace. He needs to feel safe in his own home. And right now your presence only brings him pain. Michael went pale. You want me to leave my childhood home? Robert did not flinch. This is not your house. It is your dad's house. And after what happened yesterday, he has every right to ask you to leave. Michael looked at me, looking for me to contradict him, waiting for me to say he could stay, but I did not. Robert was right. I needed him to leave. I needed to breathe without feeling constant tension. I needed my space. I think it is for the best, I finally said. For now, until things calm down. Michael closed his eyes as if he had received a blow. Okay, he whispered. I understand. He got up slowly. I am going to pack some things. I watched him go up the stairs. His shoulders were hunched. He looked defeated, and although part of me felt compassion, the other part, the wounded and betrayed part, only felt relief that he was leaving. Robert put his hand over mine. You did the right thing. I nodded, although I was not sure of anything. Nothing seemed right in that moment. Half an hour later, Michael came down with 2 suitcases. He stopped at the entrance of the living room where I was still sitting. I am going to stay at a friend's house for a few days until I find an apartment. He paused. Dad, I know this does not fix anything, but I need you to know that I am sorry. I am so sorry for everything. I was a coward, a bad son. I am going to have to live with this the rest of my life. His voice broke. I love you. I got up, walked towards him. For a moment we just looked at each other. Then I did something I had not planned. I hugged him. It was a brief, tense hug, full of pain, but it was the only thing I could offer him in that moment. I love you too, I whispered. That is why it hurts so much. We separated. Michael took the suitcases and went out the door. I heard his car start. I heard the sound fading down the street, and then the silence filled the house. I let myself fall onto the sofa. The tears I had been holding back finally came out. I cried for my son, for the relationship we had lost, for the broken trust, for the pain of watching someone you love choose someone else over you again and again. Robert sat next to me and hugged me while I cried. He said nothing, he just stayed there. Sometimes that is all you need, someone to be present in your pain without trying to fix it. The following days passed in a strange fog. The house was silent in a way I had never experienced before. It was not the peaceful silence of being alone. It was the silence, heavy with absence, of things left unsaid, of broken relationships. I saw myself in the mirror every morning and saw the bruise change color, from dark purple to yellowish green. It was a constant reminder of everything that had happened, a map of pain painted on my face. Robert stayed with me during that first week. He cooked when I did not have energy. He answered the phone when I did not want to talk to anyone. Several people called after the party, some with genuine concern, others with morbid curiosity disguised as affection. Is it true what happened, Frank? Did your daughter-in-law really attack you? Did Michael really defend her? Robert dispatched them all with short answers. My brother needs privacy. Thanks for calling. And he hung up without giving more explanations. Michael sent messages every day. At first they were long, full of apologies, full of explanations about how Vanessa had manipulated him, about how now he saw everything clearly, about how he wanted to fix things. I read them, but I did not reply. I did not know what to say. The words seemed empty. The apologies arrived too late. The damage was already done. With the passing of days, the messages became shorter, more desperate. Dad, please talk to me. I just want to know if you are okay. I miss you. But I continued without replying. I needed silence. I needed space to process everything I had lived. One afternoon, Mr. Davis, the lawyer, came to visit me. He brought news. Vanessa has hired a lawyer, he said while we drank coffee in the living room. She is initiating the divorce process. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief because it meant she would leave our lives. Sadness because it meant Michael's marriage had ended in disaster. What is she asking for? I asked. Davis made a face. She is asking for compensation for the 2 years of marriage. She alleges she left her job to support Michael, that she deserves a part of the marital assets. But Michael does not have assets, I said, confused. Everything he has is in my name. The house, the investments, everything. Davis nodded. Exactly. That is why her lawyer is trying to argue that Michael has a right to an anticipated inheritance, that you should give him a part of your assets so he can meet the obligations of the divorce. I was left speechless. Even now, even after everything, Vanessa kept trying to get to my money, but now she used Michael as a legal intermediary. This is not going to work, right? I asked with a trembling voice. Davis shook his head firmly. Absolutely not. There is no mandatory anticipated inheritance. You decide what to do with your assets and when. Nobody can force you to give anything, and much less in these circumstances. I breathed with relief. Does Michael know what she is doing? Davis shrugged. I am not sure, but he should know. It is his divorce after all. That night I sent a message to Michael, the first in a week. Do you know that Vanessa is asking me to give you money to pay her? The answer came almost immediately. What? No, I did not know anything about this. Then another message. Dad, I swear I did not ask for anything. I do not want your money. I only want to fix things between us. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think that Michael was not part of that plan, but the trust was so damaged that I no longer knew what to believe. 2 more weeks passed. The bruise finally disappeared from my face, but the wound in my heart kept bleeding. Robert had to return to his work, to his life. He hugged me before leaving. You are going to be okay, he told me. You are stronger than you think. I nodded, although I did not feel strong. I felt broken. I felt old. I felt alone. The house seemed even emptier after he left. One afternoon the doorbell rang. I was not expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and saw a young woman I did not recognize. I opened the door with caution. Mr. Frank? She asked with a kind smile. I nodded. I am a private investigator. I was hired by your son's lawyer. My heart raced. Michael had hired an investigator. For what? I was investigating Vanessa's financial past, the woman continued, and I found information I think you should know. I invited her in. We sat in the living room. She opened a folder full of documents. Vanessa has a history of relationships with older men or widowers with properties. Her previous marriage ended when the husband's family discovered she was falsifying documents to transfer properties to her name. I felt a chill run down my back. Does Michael know this? The investigator nodded. It was he who hired me. When he started to suspect, he wanted to know the truth. And the truth is that Vanessa is a professional con artist, she continued. She has gambling debts exceeding $60,000. The sharks are chasing her. That is why she needed this house so desperately. Everything started to make sense. The rush to get married, the insistence on moving into the house, the constant comments about the property value, the investigations about declaring me incompetent. It was not just ambition. It was desperation. She was running from debts, and she saw in Michael, in me, in our house, a way out. Also, the investigator said, she was in contact with real estate agents 3 months before the incident on your birthday. She asked how long it would take to sell a property after the owner was declared unfit to make decisions. She had a detailed plan. I covered my mouth with my hand. The horror of what could have happened hit me like a wave. If I had been weaker, if I had not had Robert, if Davis had not arrived that night with the documents, Vanessa could have succeeded. She could have taken everything from me. My house, my dignity, my freedom. Did Michael see all this, I asked? The investigator nodded. Yes, and he was devastated. That is why he is proceeding with the divorce without any resistance. He wants to get her out of his life as quickly as possible. After the investigator left, I sat in silence for a long time, processing everything I had heard. Vanessa was worse than I had imagined. She was not just an ambitious or manipulative woman. She was a criminal, a predator who looked for vulnerable victims. And she almost succeeded. She almost destroyed my life. She almost destroyed my son. The phone rang. It was Michael. I hesitated before answering. Finally, I did. Hello, Dad. His voice sounded tired. The investigator went to see you. Yes, I confirmed. There was a long silence. Now you understand why I feel so stupid, so used. I married a con artist, and I did not see the signs. She was good at what she did, I said gently. She fooled us both. Michael sighed. But you saw before I did. You tried to warn me and I did not listen. I treated you horribly to defend her. And now I have to live with that." His voice broke. "Are you ever going to be able to forgive me?" The question hung between us. I closed my eyes. I thought about all my pain, the humiliation, the betrayal. But I also thought about the good years, about the boy I had raised, about the man he could become again if he learned from this. "I do not know if I can forgive you now," I said honestly, "but I want to try. With time, with space, with therapy, maybe." I heard Michael's sigh as if he had been holding his breath. "I also want to try, Dad. I want to recover our relationship. I want to be the son I deserve to be, the son Mom would have wanted me to be." Tears started rolling down my cheeks. "Your mother would be disappointed with what happened," I said. "But she would also believe in second chances. She always believed in them." We talked a little more, cautiously, carefully, like two people who have known each other for a long time and are trying to recognize each other again. When we hung up, I felt strangely light. It was not complete forgiveness, it was not total reconciliation, but it was a start, a small crack in the wall that had been built between us. And for now, that was enough. The following months were of slow healing, like when you break a bone and have to wait patiently for it to knit, knowing that maybe it will never be exactly as it was before. Michael and I saw each other once a week, always in public places, a neighborhood coffee shop, a park, places where we both felt safe. The first meetings were uncomfortable, long pauses between words, looks that were not held, but little by little, very slowly, we began to find something resembling what we had lost. Michael started therapy. He told me one afternoon while we drank coffee. "The therapist says I was a victim of psychological abuse," he said, looking at his cup. "Vanessa used classic manipulation techniques. Isolation, gaslighting, gradual control." He paused. "But that does not excuse me, Dad. I also made decisions. I chose to believe her instead of you. I chose to ignore the signs. And that is something I have to carry." I nodded. He was right. Being a victim did not erase the consequences of his actions. The divorce process was long and ugly. Vanessa fought for every point. She asked for compensation for time invested. She asked for emotional damages. She even asked for the clothes Michael had given her. Her lawyer sent letter after letter, threat after threat. But Davis was relentless. He presented all the evidence from the investigator, the documents about her debts, the records of her searches on how to declare people incompetent, her previous marriages and patterns of fraud. Eventually, Vanessa's lawyer advised her to accept a quick and clean deal, or face criminal charges. One afternoon, Davis called me with news. Vanessa signed. The divorce is finalized. She receives nothing except her personal belongings, and there is a permanent restraining order. She cannot get near Michael, or you, within 200 yards. I felt a huge weight lift from my shoulders. She was gone. She was really gone. "Where is she now?" I asked. Davis hesitated. "From what I understand, she left the state, probably running from creditors, but that is no longer our problem. Michael moved into a small apartment. He invited me to see it one Saturday. It was modest, one bedroom, basic furniture, nothing fancy, but it looked clean, orderly. There were family photos on the walls, photos of when he was a boy, photos with Helen, photos with me from before everything fell apart. "I am starting over," he told me while making coffee. "Without pretensions, without living beyond my means, just me, working, healing." He showed me his space with a certain shy pride. He was a different man from the one who had defended Vanessa that horrible night. But the real test came months later. It was a quiet Sunday. Michael came to visit me at home for the first time since he had left. He walked through the house slowly, touching the walls, looking at the photos, remembering. When we reached the kitchen, he stopped. "It was here where everything exploded," he said softly. "It was here where Uncle Robert told me Mom would be ashamed of me." His eyes filled with tears. And he was right. Mom would be ashamed. I am ashamed. We sat at the table, the same table where we had shared thousands of meals. "Dad, I need to tell you something," Michael began. "And I need you to listen to me until the end." I nodded. He took a deep breath. "I have been working with the therapist on responsibility, on hiding behind excuses, and I realized something." He paused. "Vanessa manipulated me, yes, but I let her do it because deep down a part of me wanted this house, what Mom had built, and that made it easier for her to manipulate me." I stayed quiet, letting him continue. When she suggested things about you being difficult or outdated, I did not stop her. Why? Because a small, selfish part of me thought that if you left, the house would be mine. Not consciously, not actively, but the seed was there. Tears were rolling down his cheeks now. And that is why I am as guilty as she is, because my ambition, my greed, allowed all this to happen. It was painful to hear, but it was also necessary. It was the raw truth we had been avoiding. I appreciate your honesty, I finally said, and you are right. Vanessa could not have manipulated you if she had not found something in you to grab onto. Michael nodded miserably. I know, and that is why I do not expect you to forgive me completely. I do not expect things to go back to how they were before. I only hope to be able to demonstrate to you with time that I am better than my worst decisions. I extended my hand across the table. He took it. Michael, your mother and I raised you to be a good man, and good men make mistakes. Big mistakes sometimes, but they also learn, they also grow, they also redeem themselves. I squeezed his hand. I am not going to lie and say everything is okay, because it is not. But I am willing to walk with you while you work to be better. That is all I can offer you now, Michael sobbed. He got up and hugged me, a long hug, a hug that asked for forgiveness without words. I hugged him back. My son, I am so sorry for everything. I cried with him for everything we had lost, for everything we could still recover, for the long road we still had ahead. After that day, something changed between us. It was as if we had finally cleaned the wound. It hurt, it burned, but now it could begin to heal, truly. Michael started coming more often, not too much. He did not try to force things, but every week, every month, we rebuilt a little more of the bridge between us. We ate dinner together occasionally. He fixed things that broke in the house. I cooked his favorite dishes like before. One day he told me he had met someone, a woman from his work. She is different from Vanessa in every way, he told me with a shy smile. She is honest, transparent. She has her own apartment, her own car, her own life. She does not need anything from me, except company. He paused. And this time I am going slow. This time I am paying attention to the signs. This time I am going to listen to you if you see something I do not see. I smiled. I would like to meet her when you are ready, without pressure. Months turned into a year, then 2. The anniversary of that horrible birthday party came and went. This time we celebrated just Michael, Robert, and me. Something small, intimate, quiet. I blew out the candles on my cake and Michael hugged me. Happy birthday, Dad. I love you. And this time, when he said those words, I felt them true. I felt them real. I felt them deserved. The house remained mine, my refuge, my fortress, but it no longer seemed like a prison of painful memories. It seemed like a home again, a place where I had survived the storm, a place where I had found my strength when I thought I had none left. The old curtains Helen had chosen hung in the windows again. The furniture Vanessa had moved returned to their original places. Every corner became mine again. And although the pain of what had happened never disappeared completely, I learned something important. I learned that protecting myself did not make me selfish. I learned that setting boundaries did not make me cruel. I learned that sometimes the greatest love you can give is refusing to be destroyed, even if that means temporarily letting go of someone you love. Because only by keeping yourself whole can you be there when they are finally ready to rebuild. 2 years after that horrible night, I was in the garden of my house pruning the roses Helen had planted decades ago. The morning sun was warm on my back. The flowers had bloomed spectacularly this season. Red, yellow, peach color, each one more beautiful than the last. There was something therapeutic about taking care of those plants, about seeing how something that looked dead in winter could be reborn with so much force in spring. I heard a car stop in front of the house. It was Michael, but he was not alone. A woman got out of the passenger side. Hope. I had met her 6 months earlier at a casual dinner. She was an elementary school teacher, had a genuine smile and kind eyes. And most importantly, she treated Michael as an equal. She did not flatter him, she did not manipulate him. She simply accompanied him in his life in a healthy and balanced way. "Hi, Dad," Michael greeted me with a kiss on the cheek. Hope hugged me warmly. "Mr. Frank, the roses are beautiful." I smiled at her. "Thanks, honey. Your help last month made the difference." We went into the house. I had prepared food. Beef stew with rice and fresh salad. We sat at the table, the same table where so many things had happened. But now the bad memories were being replaced by new and better ones. We ate talking about trivialities, Michael's work, Hope's students, the garden flowers. It was normal. It was peaceful. It was what it should have always been. After dinner, Michael and I went out to the porch. We sat in the rocking chairs Helen had put there. "Dad, I need to tell you something," Michael finally said. My heart raced for an instant. Michael must have noticed because he quickly added, "It is something good, I promise you." I breathed with relief. "Okay, tell me." Michael turned to look at me. I asked Hope to marry me, and she said yes. My first instinct was joy, but immediately came the fear, the memories of Vanessa. Michael read my expression. "I know what you are thinking, and I understand. After Vanessa, I was also afraid." "But Dad, Hope is different, completely different," he continued. "She knows everything that happened. I told her about Vanessa, about how I treated you, about the divorce, everything, and she did not run away. And there is something else," he added. "She insisted we sign a prenup. She does not want any of my future assets if things do not work out." This surprised me and gave me hope. "When will the wedding be?" Michael smiled. "We have not set a date yet, but before planning anything, I needed your blessing. Hope said she would not marry me if you were not comfortable, that your opinion is important, that family is built on mutual respect." I felt tears stinging my eyes. "You have my blessing," I said with an emotional voice. "Hope is a good woman. I can see it." Michael hugged me. "Thanks, Dad. This means everything to me." Then he added something else. "Dad, about this house, I want you to know that never, ever am I going to ask you to leave. This is your house, your home, and it will be until the day you decide otherwise. Hope and I are going to build our own life in our own space. We do not need and we do not want this house." Those words released something in me I did not know I was holding back. Hope came out to the porch. "Did you tell him?" she asked with a smile. Michael nodded. She approached and sat on the floor in front of my rocking chair. "Mr. Frank, I know I have big shoes to fill. I want you to know that I deeply respect everything that happened, and that if you ever feel I am crossing a line, I hope you tell me directly without fear." I looked her in the eyes. They were sincere, clear. "Thank you for saying that, Hope. And please call me Frank." She smiled widely. "Only if you call me daughter when you feel ready." My heart squeezed. Daughter. I had had a daughter-in-law who used that title as a weapon. Could I open myself to having another? "I would like that," I finally said. "I would like that very much, daughter." Hope got up and hugged me, a genuine hug without calculations behind it. Michael watched us with tears in his eyes. His family, fragmented and broken, was finding a way to heal. The following months were of wedding preparations. This time I participated. Hope consulted me on every decision, not because she needed my approval, but because she genuinely valued my opinion. The wedding was held in a beautiful place on the outskirts of Chicago. Small, intimate, only close family and true friends. When Michael and Hope exchanged vows, I cried, but they were different tears than those I had shed 2 years before. At the reception, Robert sat next to me. "How do you feel?" he asked me. I thought about his question. "At peace," I finally answered. "For the first time in a long time, I feel peace." Robert smiled and raised his glass. "To peace, to healing, to endings that are actually new beginnings." We toasted. Around us people laughed, danced, celebrated. And I was there, part of it, no longer invisible, no longer displaced. That night, back in my house, I sat in the living room. The house was silent, but it did not feel empty. It felt full. Full of good and bad memories, full of lessons learned, full of second chances. I looked at Helen's photo on the mantelpiece. "We did it," I told her out loud. "I protected our son even when that meant letting him go, and now I think we are going to be okay." I got up and walked through the house. Every room had a story. The kitchen where Vanessa and I had had our final confrontation. The living room where I had been humiliated in front of everyone, but also the table where Michael and I had started to rebuild our relationship. The porch where I had received his request for a blessing. The garden where Helen's roses bloomed every year without fail. This house had been witness to my worst moment, but also to my greatest strength. Here I had learned that protecting myself was not selfishness, that setting boundaries was not cruelty, that sometimes the greatest love you can give is refusing to be destroyed. Because only by keeping yourself whole can you be there, when the people you love finally wake up, when they finally choose to be better. I went up to my room. I looked at myself in the mirror, 72 years old, lines on my face that told stories, eyes that had seen pain, but also redemption. You survived, I told myself. More than that, you won. Not with revenge, not with hatred, but staying true to who you are. I lay down on my bed, in my house, in my refuge that no one had been able to take from me. Sometimes protecting the past is saving the future. Helen knew it when she wrote that clause in the will. She knew I would need protection and gave me the tools to defend myself even after her death. Thanks to that, I was able to stand firm. I was able to say no. I was able to demand respect in my own home. And eventually that firmness saved not only my home, but also my son. I closed my eyes feeling gratitude. Gratitude for having survived, for having healed, for having a second chance with Michael, for meeting hope, for having Robert's unconditional support. Life had hit me hard. It had shown me the dark side of people I loved, but it had also shown me my own strength. A strength I did not know I had until I needed it desperately. This house is still mine. These keys that Vanessa coveted so much remain in my power, not because they represent money or status, but because they represent something much more valuable. My autonomy, my right to exist in my own space without asking permission, my freedom to live without fear, and that no one can ever take from me. A year later, Michael and Hope came to visit me on a Sunday afternoon. Hope was 6 months pregnant, radiant, carrying my future grandson or granddaughter. We sat in the garden under the shade of the walnut tree Helen and I had planted when Michael was little. The circle was complete. "What do you want the baby to call you, Grandpa Frank?" Hope asked with tenderness. Grandpa Frank, a new title, a new opportunity, a new generation that would grow up knowing this story not as a tragedy, but as a testimony that it is possible to survive, heal, and love again. "Grandpa Frank is perfect," I said, feeling my heart fill with a happiness I had not felt in years. Michael took my hand. "Dad, I want you to know that this boy is going to grow up knowing his grandfather's story. He is going to know that strong men are not those who never fall, but those who get up. He is going to know that true love includes protecting oneself." Hope nodded. "And he is going to know that his great-grandmother Helen was a very wise woman who protected her family even after leaving." I looked towards the house, towards the windows where the curtains Helen had chosen hung again, towards the walls that had withstood all the storms. This house had been my battlefield, but also my victory. Here I had learned that dignity is not something others give you, it is something you decide to keep. I had learned that true respect is not begged for, it is earned by standing firm in your principles. I had learned that sometimes loving means letting go, and that sometimes letting go is the only way someone can really come back to you. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky oranges and pinks. In a few months there would be a new baby in this family, a new life that would grow with the blessing of having been born into a family that had learned to value respect, honesty, and true love. Michael stood up and hugged me. "Thank you, Dad, for not giving up, for not letting them destroy us, for teaching me that it is possible to be strong and loving at the same time." I hugged him back, my son, my man, my boy who had grown through pain to become someone better. "Thank you," I told him, "for being willing to learn, to grow, to be better." Hope hugged us both, and for a moment we were what we should have always been, a family, united not by the tragedies we had endured, but by the love we had chosen to rebuild. That night, while the house went silent again, I sat one last time in my living room looking at the family photos that had survived everything. Helen and I on our wedding day. Michael baby, happy moments that no Vanessa in the world could erase. And now, new photos. Michael and Hope at their wedding. Moments of reconciliation. Images of a future being built on solid foundations. Did you like my story? I asked myself, imagining all the people who maybe needed to hear that it is possible to survive family betrayal, that it is possible to maintain dignity in the middle of chaos, that it is possible to love without allowing yourself to be destroyed. This story was not just mine. It was for everyone who had ever felt invisible in their own home, for everyone who had had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping their dignity, for everyone who had learned that protecting yourself is not selfishness, it is survival. And from somewhere I am sure Helen was smiling, knowing that her plan had worked, that her love had protected me even after her departure, and that our family had found the way back home.